All the people like Mark Levin and all these guys, when they talk to their audience, whatever audience they got left, and they always love to talk about how Iran chants death to America. But none of them ever even try to say, to even approach the question of why. Why do they chant death to America? Why do they hate us so much? And this was
they
always
hate us for our freedom. I just think it's more than Americans don't know. I think they've been prevented from knowing.
Yeah, that's right.
That, you know, actions have reaction.
If you spent your whole career arguing how violent and irrational the Muslims are, what does killing an Ayatollah mean?
Comedian and political commentator Dave Smith joined Tucker Carlson on Carlson's podcast for a wide-ranging discussion that touched on the war against Iran and a lot more. And look, if you are wondering why Iran would chant something like death to America, luckily we've got a history buff like Dave Smith to explain it rather clearly. Take a look.
Why do they chant death to America? Why do they hate us so much? And this was
they
always,
hate us for our freedoms.
If you ask Iranians, and not the ones who are, you know, paid by Mossad to promote wars, but like they'll tell you very quickly why they hate us. And the whole beef, right, goes back to 1953. We overthrew their government. We installed a dictator who they did not like very much, who was not very kind to his political opponents, to put it mildly. And then the other big thing that they point out all the time is in 1980, Saddam Hussein invaded Iraq. Now, a lot of people from my generation remember this because this is actually what the neocons they would often like vaguely cite this when they were trying to push the war against Iraq. They're like, he used chemical weapons against civilians. You're like, yeah. What they leave out is that they were backing him when he did that. They facilitated the sale of those chemical weapons to him. And they backed and gave the green light for Saddam Hussein to invade the country. And so, you know, Iranians remember that. Like they remember that. There was, I think, 500 or 600,000 Iranians died in that war. Like they remember this very well. By the way, another lesson from that war is they never surrendered.
Everything that Dave said there is factually correct. Absolutely, can be confirmed if you want to fact check what he just said. In fact, the current president of Iran just put out a letter to Americans, an open letter to Americans, and I'm going to read an excerpt from it where he literally repeats what Dave Smith just said. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But I also want you guys to contend with how the world views the United States given every other conflict that's happening, every other thing that we've been involved in, whether it's causing famine in Yemen in order to defeat the Houthis, which we failed at, by the way. When it comes to arming Israel to try to wipe out the Palestinian people in Gaza, whether it comes to arming Israel as they ethnically cleanse southern Lebanon, displacing 1.2 million Lebanese individuals from their homes, and then announcing that they're going to demolish every home in southern Lebanon and just take the land for themselves. They've literally said that, Israel did. So when we are aiding and abetting, or us ourselves engaging in this type of behavior, when we're orchestrating coups of democratically elected presidents or leaders, how do you think the citizens of these countries that have been victimized by our government's actions are going to feel about the United States? Because the whole notion of blowback is an important thing to keep in mind. Blowback is very much real. Now, in the case of Israel, they've found a way to somewhat protect themselves from blowback by getting our government to fund their defense capabilities. That's the Iron Dome. So when they know that they can act with impunity, when they don't have to worry about their actions leading to blowback that could get their citizens killed in large numbers, well, then they're going to be emboldened to keep carrying out, the atrocities they've been carrying out. In the case of the United States, we don't have an Iron Dome. And I think that and this is not a commentary about our soldiers. This is a commentary about our military capabilities. I think that we have gotten way too cocky in thinking that we're never going to see any trouble here on domestic soil. our actions are never going to come back to haunt us. I think we should really start thinking about very real consequences that arise from the foreign policy that our government engages in. With that in mind, I wanted to read the excerpt from Masoud Pezeshkian's open letter to Americans today. Okay, so he's the president of Iran, and he says basically what you just heard from Dave Smith. Relations between Iran and the United States were not originally hostile, and early interactions between the Iranian and American people were not marred with hostility or coup d'etat, an illegal American 1953 tension. The turning point, however, was the intervention aimed at preventing the nationalization of Iran's own resources. That's why we did the coup in 1953. That coup disrupted Iran's democratic process, reinstated dictatorship, and sowed deep distrust among Iranians toward US policies. This distrust deepened further with America's support for the Shah's regime. Its backing of Saddam Hussein. We did back Saddam Hussein during the Iraq-Iran war in the 1980s. During the imposed war of 1980s, the imposition of the longest and most comprehensive sanctions in modern history, and ultimately unprovoked military aggression twice in the midst of negotiations against Iran. So you guys can understand actions have consequences. You can't punch someone in the face and expect them to love you. And we've been punching a lot of different countries in the face. That doesn't mean the American people are bad. Obviously, I freaking love this country and I love the people within this country. But it does mean that our government, historically speaking and in modern times, has carried out foreign policy that I believe actually puts Americans at risk. Certainly our soldiers at risk, which they seem to have no problem doing willy-nilly. But yeah, this foreign policy causes a lot of hostility.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.